welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep the Mining podcast. And today's guest is Alastair McIntyre, who's the CEO of Altiplano Metals, who are part of the metals group of companies, focusing on expanding, acquiring and developing cash flowing and near-term cash flowing copper, gold and silver assets. Alastair's a geologist by background, his geology and finance background. And as he's the company's executive with over 30 years experience as a leader and senior advisor in metals banking, capital markets, physical and derivative metals trading, gold refining and mining. He's now at the helm of Altiplano Metals, and he's here today to tell us a little bit more about the company and the projects they're involved in. So that's welcome, Alastair, to the podcast. How you doing, Alastair?
I'm well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah, no worries. I think I jumbled my words with a lot of things that you've been. Yeah, a lot of things that you've been doing. So, I wondered if you can tell the audience a little bit about your obviously varied background and your career, maybe from when you sort of back in the day when you graduated to sort of current day, just so the audience knows a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Look, I started my career as a geologist. My next door neighbor was a geologist, and he got me interested in the profession, and had very good sort of opportunity to work as a student and in summer jobs, and so I got a bit of a jump on most of my peers with respect to university. So look, I had the love of geology and rocks and all that kind of stuff. So just spent a fair bit of time working for companies in Atlantic Canada. Worked underground as a mine geologist. But I guess at some point, just the finance side of it always interested me. So I decided I'd go back to school and continue my work in geology, but also get a business background. So from there, I just moved into some varying roles, which were really interesting. I worked for the Canadian Mint, spent a lot of time dealing with mining companies globally for gold production and refining, and also worked a lot in South America with the central banks to upgrade gold for gold deposits, mainly in London. And I've had, again, another great opportunity to work for Scotiabank for a number of years in Toronto, Sydney, New York, and in Hong Kong for 12 years, mainly setting up businesses around the consumption side in Asia, and of course the production side in the West. So very interesting, and also basically decided to find a role within the advisory side. So I worked my latter part in Hong Kong, dealing mainly with companies who are looking to list on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And of course, I did some lead advisory work for the Hong Kong Stock Exchange's acquisition of the LME, London Metal Exchange, for 1.2 billion. So yeah, I've just come back into Canada. I'm back in Toronto, and I was looking for some interesting roles, and certainly the Altiplano opportunity. And I've been CEO now for about 2.5 years or so. Has provided that great motivation and interest in this market. Altiplano is a very different company to many juniors, as you mentioned, with respect to our cash flow interests. So there, Rob, that's a little bit of a background, and sometimes hard to chat about yourself. I mean, perhaps I'm a bit humble, who knows? But anyways, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned you worked in Hong Kong. What was that like, I suppose, compared to working in Canada in the finance markets?
Yeah, well, I mean, Hong Kong is a very, very unique city. It's very, very fast paced. We were there for 12 years, and it seems like a long weekend when you think back to it, because things were so quickly paced. There's a different work ethic, and particularly when you're working in Asia and you're working for a Western bank or a North American based organization. So you're on the phone kind of basically in the evenings mostly. So you've got pretty long days. And it's a very, very A-type driven type of place to work, and which is good. In many ways, that's kind of my personality also. But it's a challenge because it's there's great expectations, and I use the Canadian analogy, from the perspective that you can't aspire to make the playoffs in hockey. You've got to be in a Stanley Cup every year, or you shouldn't be there, kind of thing. So, but I enjoyed it. We enjoyed it as a family, and it was something very interesting because from a Hong Kong perspective, you get so many people coming through, and you get so many different types of differing personalities and also ideas. But when you're in a smaller city or a smaller sort of country, you don't necessarily get that benefit. But Hong Kong certainly offered that, and had the good fortune to travel to all countries in Asia as heading up as a head of Asia. So I got to see some very unique and interesting places and very interesting and unique individuals and companies for sure.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So I just wanted to give us an overview of Altiplano Metals. Obviously, you've been there for a little while. Just wanted to give us maybe a little bit of history and sort of up to current day.
Yeah, well, Altiplano is part of the Metals Group, and the Metals Group is a collection of individuals and companies, basically, where we share talent, management, office space in some ways. Our finance group, individuals at Metals Group have been very successful, raised probably over $500 million over a span of 20, 30 years. They've been involved in 25, 30 successful companies. And so, that's a very good pedigree to have with respect to an association, because, from Metals Group point of view, we always get opportunity to see very good projects because, Metals Group has demonstrated they've been successful. So a lot of people who have assets, they come to us to look to find opportunities to monetize that through companies, et cetera. So Altiplano is within that group and very beneficial to what's offered from these particular companies. So from specifically Altiplano's perspective, we are a junior mining company. We've been focusing on cash flow and revenue generation projects. And with those projects, we can essentially use those to self-fund on an exploration basis or to reinvest capital into building of mills, developing underground assets, putting together exploration and acquisition strategies. So, from that perspective, we're a little bit unique to the market because most junior companies are raising money, drilling holes, getting results, kind of rinse and repeat, getting good results, getting more stock valuation, getting a new raise out. Now, Altiplano is no different to that. I mean, we also look to the market for specific opportunities in terms of acquisitions, et cetera. But we are aligning ourselves to being more of a revenue generator and being able to fund our exploration activities through cash flow rather than having to depend on the markets or dilution for that matter.
Just wondering if you can tell us about some of the projects you're currently involved in, and obviously some details of the results that you've achieved.
Yeah, well, at the moment we have a focus at Farion, which is a iron oxide copper gold vein structure. It's basically located about 45 minutes from La Serena in Chile, of course. And we've been underground there for a number of years, and we've developed a number of drifts off of our main Hugo decline. And we basically extract copper gold material and we sell it to a local processor, Anami. And that funds our operations there. And we've been cash flow positive at that site since 2018. And our next sort of advance with respect to the project is that we will begin a mill. We've started the construction. We have mill approval, construction approval from the local government to complete this operation. It's about 15 kilometers away from site, so we'll save 75% on trucking, 45% on processing, and ultimately with the final product and final approvals, we'll have an iron separation to be able to add a sort of secondary opportunity for revenue generation. So that's Farion, and so we've been very successful. We've been very focused on grade control and very focused on making money at that site. So that's Farion.
Yeah. Wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the management team as well, and what's unique about your team. Obviously, you're pretty diverse as a company, so yeah, I was wondering if you can tell us about your management team.
Well, yeah. Well, you heard a bit about me, and I think what I bring to the group is that I have a diverse experience base. Technically is important as a CEO for a mining company, in my perspective. So I have that background. You have the international capital markets experience. Have a diversity in terms of the people that I've basically worked with, and also my experience in terms of other destinations around those capital markets. So from my perspective, the CEO is an important role of the company, and obviously important to be able to have the proper associations, connections, et cetera, to manage the company. But having said that, the CEO is one part of that, and when I mentioned about our metals group team, the metals group basically are involved in our business, and John Williamson basically is our chairman. And he's been the founder of the metals group, and he's involved in a number of other companies with respect to the metals group. He's former CEO of Altiplano, so I have that benefit of having John as a mentor, and we talk every day in terms of getting our assets moving forward. And we've got a very sort of strong director base with respect to Jeremy, who's been involved in a number of projects around Canada, and in particular some gold projects that were in Western Canada. And so his network is very good from capital raising and capital markets perspective, and a diverse group in terms of our independent directors who know about drilling, basically we were very involved in that aspect. Just recently bought a drill, and we use that to complement a lot of our business. So yeah, I think from the management perspective, that's one thing that's very important to us. And back to that point about the metals group being able to bring us opportunity in terms of assets, that's a very sort of strong component of Altiplano.
What challenges have you sort of been facing as a company with some of obviously the projects you've been involved in? Obviously, you're operating in Chile, and I suppose how things have been affected you sort of during these last 20 months, obviously during COVID.
Well, being a mining company, you're faced with enormous challenges. I don't think anybody who's not worked in the mining business can really appreciate how difficult it is to be a mining company because of getting access to capital, getting access to talent, being able to understand the technical and the geological engineering side. So all those things are pretty common to the challenges in the mining business. But specifically in the last 20 months with respect to COVID, I would say the biggest challenge that we've been faced with is just simply not being able to get to site, to get to operations, and also from an acquisition perspective, getting out there and being able to do effective due diligence on bigger assets. We can look at exploration sites from a desktop perspective, but in terms of completing an acquisition strategies, you really need to get and be somewhere to kick tires. So Chile is opening, and there was expectations that we'd be there earlier. I shouldn't say earlier, but at this point in November. But we see now they've kind of gone back to a quarantine process, so it's very challenging to get. Now, having said that, what we really have the benefit of is a very strong management team in Chile. And basically we have country manager there, we have mine site geology, we have a mine site engineer, and we have chemical processing and electrical engineers, et cetera, with respect to our business and building of a new mill. So those are very, very good things from our perspective in terms of our management. But COVID, it's hard to to quantify the supply chain issues. I think we've done okay. We've done a lot in the last year in terms of acquisition of projects, signing of deals, moving our mill forward, acquiring equipment, putting it in place. So I think we've done okay, but we really need to see this pandemic disappear so we can move on. Rob, you know that.
Yeah, certainly. And I was going on to my next question. Are you, as a business, are you sort of looking to acquire more assets? And if so, is there any particular jurisdictions you're looking at? Any particular commodities? Obviously, you mentioned you might have done some during this whole COVID period. But is there anything you're able to tell us?
Well, yeah, I mean, from an acquisition perspective, we renegotiated our agreement with the owners at Mary Louisa. Mary Louisa is a project about 100 plus kilometers north of us at Farion, and that's a very highly prospective gold copper project. Great grades, close to 7 grams per ton in gold and 1.9% in copper. So we renegotiated an agreement there, and we were able to advance it to the point where basically we've put in a permit for exploitation, which we've received last month. So in earnest, we are basically on the ground and starting our underground activities, beginning to get to that underground decline at Mary Louisa now. So that will be a second project that we will bring on from a cash flow revenue generating perspective. We have a project in the Maricunga is an exploration project called Pastillas, and it's in great real estate. You know, it's Maricunga has a sort of collective 100 million ounce sort of, gold camp with past producers, current producers, number of companies in development, such as the Phoenix Gold Project, Rio 2. Kinross has been there for some time. La Coipa has been there for some time. And there's a lot of other developers and exploration companies like ourselves that are there. So that's a project that we put together a few months ago. We've also been involved in we've put a deal together for acquiring a exploration project in Nicaragua. And this is a 16,000, hectare gold district place type of project that has 12 kilometers of strike length of gold bearing quartz veins. There's 6 deposits. There's some trenching, there's been sampling, there's been some drilling, there's been some good grades, as much as say 25 grams per ton in select areas. So this is a very prospective opportunity for us. We have to finalize getting things done with respect to the government in Nicaragua. We still need to get the claims but sorted out, from the Ministry of Mines perspective. But that's again back to the COVID situation. Things are moving very slow in these types of places. So to answer all those points, that yes, we've been pretty active. In fact, I've been speaking so long here, Rob, I forgot the question. So
yeah. As sort of concluding, what's the sort of outlook for the next 12 to 18 months, and I suppose what you're looking to achieve?
Well, I think, back to the original point that yes, we're acquisitive. We're looking for additional projects. Again, harping back onto the metals group and the ability to look at good projects. We see something every day that comes across our desk to have a look at. We're reviewing many projects. In just the general La Serena area where we are, there are 100 known projects within 100 kilometers of where we sit, and a lot of these are the projects that we like to see small scale, quickly available in terms of acquisition, quickly available in terms of permitting, if not permitted already, and you've got opportunity to quickly get underground, make some revenue from them. So those are the projects that we like to see. We are also looking at additional exploration projects because, again, our business model is to use cash flow to support exploration. So that gives investors that opportunity to be able to participate in company that has cash flow, but also provides upside in terms of district play, big scale exploration projects. Because of course investors want upside, and we recognize that some of the projects that we're looking at are a bit more on that smaller scale, and that's fine. But what we see is that opportunity to be able to develop and grow our business around this two-pronged approach.
Yeah. Alastair, really appreciate your time. It seems you're pretty busy, fingers in a lot of pies, but obviously keeping active, and obviously always looking for opportunities. So if our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that? Are you on any social media platforms?
Well, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, both through my personal posts and of course our Altiplano LinkedIn page. We're active on Twitter also, and certainly anybody who wishes to reach out to me, please do so. I mean, I'm Alastair M at Altiplano. Pardon me, Alastair M at apnmetals.com, and of course you have to know how to spell Alastair, which is ALASTAIRM.
Yeah. We'll put those in the show notes anyway, so people can refer to that. So really appreciate your time, and hope our audience who are listening enjoyed that. Obviously a lot about South America. Appreciate again all your support. Appreciate if you can pass this episode on to others, whether you're in South America, whether you're in Canada or anywhere across the world. Wondered if you can obviously share this episode. So Alastair, as I mentioned, really appreciate your time. maybe you can come on later next year or next year sometime to give us an update on things.
Yeah, well, I like that. I mean, we're growing. We've got a lot on the go. Metals market, I think, at some point here should be a bit more rewarding in terms of prices, particularly on the gold side. And yeah, I think Altiplano is undervalued, and it's a good opportunity for investors to see our vision and participate in a stronger market.
Yeah, really appreciate the time again. And until next time, happy mining.